Welcome to Growing Older, Living Younger, the podcast that will help you discover your personal roadmap to staying healthy, happy, and vibrant as you age. With your host, international speaker, author, and dance and doc extraordinaire, Dr. Gillian Lockitch.
Welcome to the Podapalooza 2025 edition of Growing Older, Living Younger, the longevity podcast that empowers you to take control of how you age so you can age youthfully and live younger longer. I'm your host, Dr. Gillian Lockitch. With me today to talk about one of the most vital and often overlooked pillars of healthy aging is Dr. Lucinda Sykes. She is a retired Canadian physician and a longtime teacher of mindfulness at Toronto's Meditation for Health clinic. Since retiring from her medical practice, she continues speaking and coaching to support the well-being of women over 50. What is her special passion? It is helping women reclaim deep natural sleep and peace of mind. So, Dr. Sykes, I'm going to call you Lucinda, call me Jill. Please, welcome back to Growing Older, Living Younger. We first talked, I believe it was in March of 2023, where we had a lovely episode centering around sleep and the work that you were doing at the time. And I'm absolutely delighted to have a chance to talk to you again.
Beautiful. I so much thank you for this invitation, Jill. It's great to be back. And I look forward to maybe sharing some further insights that have come to me along the route here. You know, I've been working with really dozens of women over 50, contending with the issues of sleep that often occur in the second half of life. Mm-hmm. And really recognizing, as you do, that sleep is a foundation to it all. Yeah. That when we sleep, we don't go somewhere. It's true that the story mind, the thinking mind, takes a break, but the fullness of ourselves is still here. Our brain is very active, laying down memories. The brain is cleansing itself, rebalancing the immune system, the cardiovascular system, and so on. That really, sleep is essential. And unfortunately, even in modern times, medicine is often overprescribing sleeping pills. And as you and I were discussing, sleeping pills are, basically they're a very bad idea. They sedate the brain, and it's true that they temporarily silence the thinking mind, but gosh, they interfere with all those other special functions that the brain has for us. And in the long run, we become vulnerable to increased incidence of Alzheimer's disease, cancer, heart disease, and the research even indicating that there's a short life expectancy if you're taking sleeping pills.
I'm horrified.
Pills are not, I am horrified too. I love the word. I am horrified that so many in our profession continue to overprescribe. Mainstream medicine now is certainly catching up to it. And as I say, I stay grounded in the research, and the research is unequivocal that sleeping pills should not be taken for more than a couple of weeks. Mm. And that the fact is that sleeping pills do not help us sleep. They sedate the brain. And, I started off in anesthesia. I know what sedation is, and it's not sleep. Sedation suppresses brain function, and all those other special functions of the brain while we're sleeping, they get sedated too. And if you keep doing that to yourself over time, you get into trouble. Mm. So if we aren't using sleeping pills, how the heck do we sleep better?
Well, before we get into that, and I mean, that's a topic that's really dear to my heart too, but I know you've had a very interesting journey from clinical medicine to teaching mindfulness. So can you just briefly say, what was it that inspired your focus on sleep and women's wellness in the sort of midlife to older stage of life? What was it that got you to zero in on that?
Well, as is often the case, it's my personal life story. I grew up in a family of women who could not sleep. I still remember as a little girl going to the pharmacy and picking up grandma's sleeping pills because every night that I knew her, she was taking sleeping pills. And my mother also had sleep difficulties. And my goodness, when I went to medical school in Toronto, that was the big city, so noisy, and I began to have sleeping problems too. But fate was on my side. I was so fortunate at the student health services. I secured some excellent psychotherapy, and I immersed myself in this new field of sleep science. And I've personally found that my sleep now is not an issue. But in those years of practicing medicine early on, I was in family medicine at the outset. And the accepted practice was to prescribe sleeping pills. And, I had started off in anesthesia. I briefly thought about going into anesthesia, and I knew that drugs would not be the way to help people sleep. As an anesthetist, you walk into the recovery room and you see people lying in their stretchers unconscious, and an uninformed person thinks that they're all sleeping, but the anesthetist knows that no, they are not sleeping. But I did, as family doctors did, prescribe these pills. But soon enough, I became very interested in psychotherapy. And then because I had taken up, in part in response to my sleep problems, I had taken up yoga and meditation. And so I brought that into my medical practice. And that was possible now because, at least in Ontario, family doctors could have a subspecialty of psychotherapy. And then I adopted mindfulness-based stress reduction. And then, long story short, for 23 years, I taught programs of mindfulness-based stress reduction to patients who were all referred by other physicians for stress reduction. And so there I was practicing medicine without a prescription pad. And, my patients were grateful. It was real medicine, but it didn't need to be pharmaceutically based. So I got accustomed to that, in fact.
I sort of hadn't really thought about this, but I do have a question. So we know that during certain phases of sleep, particularly, if we get enough time of sleep, we know that autophagy and cellular, I use the word detoxification, although I really don't like that. Cellular cleansing.
Yes, the brain cleans itself. Yes.
Right. And we have the lymphatic system that washes away all these toxins. So does that process not actually occur when people are using a sleeping pill to be asleep?
What an appropriate...
Do we know?
I was thrilled. In February, a new paper came out with the great Danish neuroscientist, Maiden Nedergaard. She's the lady who discovered glymphatic flow. And so her team gave us the first evidence, direct evidence, that sleeping pills interfere with glymphatic flow.
Wow. That's
fascinating. Paper. I'll send it to you if you're interested. In February, there was the poor rats, because the rats are the subject of early scientific studies, of course. They were given the sleeping pills, and then the research showed that the glymphatic flow of the brain gives itself a power wash every night, right from the rats on up. Well, there we are sleeping, and our brain is cleansing itself with like the equivalent of a power wash. But the poor rats who were on the sleeping pills, their power wash was suppressed. And of course, in this process of power wash, you're absolutely right. The toxins are being eliminated. And some of those toxins are definitely associated with Alzheimer's disease. So when we're taking the sleeping pills, the poor rats, it would be true for them too, they're taking the sleeping pills and they can't cleanse away these toxins, and they would make themselves prone to, well, dare I say it's not Alzheimer's, but they wouldn't be benefiting either.
It's something just sort of flashed through my mind, which is sometimes focuses on too many things at the same time. But one of the things that I found, with growing older, is the impact that alcohol, even a single glass of wine, has on my sleep. So I have never had a problem falling asleep. I've never been insomniac in that sense. but I would wake up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and be completely unable to get back to sleep. I wonder if alcohol somehow also, I haven't really researched this or looked into it.
No,
I wonder if it also impedes lymphatic flow.
I would guess that it does because it too affects the GABA system in the brain. So that alcohol and sleeping pills are affecting the GABA system in the brain, which suppresses the activity of the brain. And most definitely, I would guess that that's the case. I'm so glad you brought up alcohol because that's another story I hear from my clients is they think, well, I'll just have a glass of, wine before bed because Lucinda, it helps me sleep. But of course, that too is not sleep. That's a type of sedation. The brain is sedated. And that's why frequently one has fragmented sleep. One wakes up in the middle of the night and significantly awaken in the morning and you don't feel refreshed because the brain has not had a chance to refresh itself. So you have lost consciousness. The thinking mind has been suppressed by the drug, by the alcohol, but the rest of the brain function has also been impaired. It's a sad state of affairs, actually.
I remember really enjoying our conversation on our previous podcast, and I'm definitely going to reach out to you to find another time, probably in September, because my podcasts are scheduled all the way to the end of August with some other amazing speakers as well. But we definitely need to get
You have
together.
a wonderful series of speakers, Gillian. Absolutely. Yes.
So can we switch to the concept or the topic of mindfulness, which is something that I really only began to think about as I was sort of exploring my growing older, living younger, what mindfulness means and how does that improve our sleep. I've also discovered and taken up in the last little while understanding quantum healing and frequencies, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So can you first of all talk about what exactly do you mean by mindfulness and how does it improve sleep?
I'm so glad that you emphasize what do I mean by it.
Yes,
because perhaps like myself, you're starting to recognize that this word mindfulness is a kind of multi-purpose word.
Right.
And I even, because I'm no longer teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction, I don't use the word too much. But let's use the word in the way it was initially intended by John Kabat-Zinn and his followers back in the 90s. Because the word itself is new to the party. It's a translation of the ancient Sati Shmurti words of Sati and so on. But the word mindfulness is meant to refer to 4 points. First off, mindfulness means that you're paying attention, and you're paying attention to what's happening right now, and you are doing so without judging it or trying to make it be a certain way. So it's open awareness to what you are experiencing right now without judgment or intention to make it be a certain way.
So does that equate to presence, being fully present? Or is that
Yes.
something different?
Once we start to clarify, we also get onto thin ice because it depends on the vocabulary and what we mean. Like if we say really present, you can be present to the fact that you're not really present.
Okay.
You can be witnessing that your mind is very busy right now. You can be witnessing that you're feeling a little disturbed or upset or, well, for example, right now in this moment, Jill, can you feel your feet?
Yes.
Yes. They're just there, aren't they? You pay attention.
Right.
And you're not trying to make yourself have a particular experience. You're not judging it. You just feel your feet. You are mindful of your feet. And I guess we could say you're being present to your feet, but the more neutral expression of being aware might be more useful. Once we start to use the other words, then there's the am I really present or am I not? Or am I maybe just 50% present or so on.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I've never thought that I was capable of meditation, because I always thought it meant trying to keep your mind clear and empty. And
That's there's the trick.
I was always so
yes
patient and thought, I don't have time for this. It's not
That's the
moving
common,
me anywhere.
absolutely. And that's the misunderstanding that people would be bringing to my programs. I would, for example, at the outset of every group, the first session, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, you have come here for a reason. Mm. You are wanting, and then they were all referred by their doctor. They had reasons. Mm-hmm. And I said, as your doctor at this point, I want you to get results. So we're both on the same page. Right. But the paradox is, and I would define the word paradox for them, go back to ancient Greek philosophy, a paradox can't really be solved. The paradox is that you're here for a reason, and what we're going to do is be present without reasons. We're not going to try to improve anything. Mm. Instead, we're going to be aware of what's happening right now. This is mindfulness, being aware of what's happening right now without needing to judge it or change it. Mm-hmm. And the paradox is that if you do so, over time, you will, and here's what the research will confirm, you will very likely find that there are changes in your day-to-day experience which you quite enjoy, which you improve of, even though when you're being mindful, you're not trying to change anything.
Mm, wow. This is definitely needs a much more detailed and longer conversation than in our mini Podapalooza interview. So, Lucinda, I want to thank you so much for generally sharing your wisdom and helping so many people, women, rediscover the restorative power of real sleep. And that brings us to the end of this Podapalooza 2025 mini episode of Growing Older, Living Younger. Remember, sleep well, age youthfully, live younger longer, and until next time, this is Dr. Gillian Lockitch signing off and looking forward to talking to you again.
Thanks for tuning in to Growing Older, Living Younger. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, leave a rating and review and share it with your friends. Tune in every week to learn how you can change your aging at the cellular level to stay healthy, happy, and vibrant. Remember that in this podcast, we share information for educational purposes only, and the content does not provide medical advice. As you contemplate your own roadmap for healthy aging, be sure to discuss your intentions with your medical or other qualified, certified health practitioner. And until next week, dance every day.